Welcome everyone. I'd like to share with you how I made this side table. We'll be using this free pattern. I have some scrap cardstock, a Q-tip, white Elmer's glue, and some wood glue. So we'll be quilling these paper strips onto the Q-tip. Mine will be in color so that it will be easier for you to see the shape that the paper's taking. And I'm starting with piece 1, and I'm just going to roll this right, keeping the edge even with the end of the Q-tip. Now piece number 2 and 3 are a different color, so they're going to go together. We'll start with 2, and 2 is going to glue on right underneath piece 1. And this is how it should look. Third one is the same color as the second one, so I'm going to glue it right on top of the second one where it ended. And this one is a triangle, so it is going to taper in on both sides. And that is how piece number 3 looks. So the pink is piece 2 and 3. It gives it kind of a beveled edge on both sides. And piece number 4 is kind of a short piece, and it's a different color, so it's going to glue on under piece number 3. And here is how piece 4 looks, the purple. And piece 5 is also purple, so it will get glued on right where piece number 4 ended. On your pattern piece, you'll notice that it has a dark line, and that dark line is the straight edge. And you want your straight edge to be facing the cotton end of the Q-tip. And now piece number 6 is a change of color on your pattern pieces, so it will glue on underneath piece 5. And it's a straight piece, so it doesn't taper at all. And my piece tore because I was pulling it too tight, but I'm just going to glue it on right where it tore. And the blue is how piece 6 should look at this point. And piece 7 is also blue, so it's going to glue right where piece 6 ended. And it's just a straight piece, so it doesn't taper on the sides. And this is how piece number 7 looks. Piece number 8 is also blue, so it will glue at the end of piece 7. And piece number 8 is a long skinny triangle, so it will taper in on each side. And this is how piece 8 looks. It makes that blue section look rounded. Piece number 9 is a different color, and it will glue on right under piece number 8. And that's how piece 9 looks, the pink. And piece number 10 is the same color, and it glues right where piece 9 ended. And will get rolled right on top of piece 9. And that's how piece 10 looks. And piece number 11 is also the same color, so you will glue that one right where piece 10 ended. And it is a triangle, so it will taper on each side. And that's how piece 11 looks. And piece number 12 is a different color, and it's going to glue on right under the pink section. So this is piece number 12. And it's a rectangle, so the edges will stay even. And that's how piece 12 looks. And piece 13 has that line showing the straight edge, and this time we want the straight edge to face the opposite end of the cotton end. It will glue on like this, so your straight edge will be facing that way, away from the cotton. And you're keeping this top edges even here, not at the bottom. The bottom will start tapering in. And piece number 14 is a different color, and it will glue on right under piece 13. This is how piece 14 looks. And piece 15 is the same color, and it will glue on right where 14 ended. And it is a long triangle, so it tapers on both sides. And this is how piece number 15 looks. And piece number 16 is a different color. It glues on under piece 15. And it's just a long rectangle, so it won't taper. You'll just keep your edges even. And now it's complete. And now I'm going to cut the Q-tip away, and I just roll it, try to keep it as flat up against the blade as I can, but mine always comes out a little uneven, so I always end up running it across some sandpaper. So I've cut out all of my pieces, and now I'm going to glue them down to the scrap cardstock. Once I have all of the pieces glued down to the first layer of cardstock, I'm going to cut these out and I'm going to glue them onto cardstock again. But just keep cutting them out and gluing them down to cardstock until you have the amount of layers that you need. Once I had all of the layers that I wanted glued together for each piece, I try to peel off this paper carefully. And if you traced yours, you won't have to worry about this, but I glued mine on. And now I'm just going to sand the edges so that they're even. And each tabletop has the outer piece and then the inner piece. And this longer one goes to the larger table. I'm going to keep one edge even with the top of the table. And if your cardstock is not wanting to wrap around the circle easily, you could spritz it with a little bit of water and it will form to it a lot easier. And then just continue gluing all the way around. If the strip happens to have a little extra left over at the end, you can just trim it off. Once you have your sides glued onto your inner tabletop, and just put some glue on top and then glue the outer tabletop onto it. And try to center it the best that you can. And now the tabletops are complete. You'll start off with the plus sign shape and you'll put glue in the center. And then you'll have two pieces like this. You're going to center it on top of the plus sign and then glue the smaller piece on top and just center it. I cut some 1/8 inch strips of just plain copy paper. I roll them up and then just glue it onto the bottom of the base. What would you call these? The feet? Now if you don't want to put these on, you can leave them off and that will give you a different look. And this little base is complete. Take the pedestal piece that you made and on the end just make some marks, 3 marks where the legs will be glued on that look evenly spaced to you. And I put a little mark down the side and just glue the leg onto the bottom of the pedestal right under that first rounded looking, I'm going to call these beads because they look like beads to me. And I'm using wood glue. And this is how they look glued on. I forgot to show you with this one before I glued the legs on. These are all the same pieces, all quilled on to the Q-tip, the same as this one, except I left off number 1. And the reason why I leave number 1 off is I think it looks better on the pedestal. And I like to use wood glue. And I'm just going to glue it on right in the center. And that's how that piece looks. So you've got this one and you have this one. And you can decide to put the larger table on the taller one or on the smaller one. The choice is yours. Some ways to embellish the side of the table. I cut a 1/16 of an inch strip of cardstock and glued it on the bottom edge. And I also cut some squares and just glued them on. I did the same on this one, except these squares I glued on over the strip, and I also cut out a little circle and glued it on top of the square. And this one, I didn't put the little skinny strip, I just did the little square, and then I glued a little strip of cardstock down the center of each one of them. So it gives them kind of a different look on the side. I think I'm going to glue this large tabletop onto the shorter base. I've already given them 2 coats of wood glue, and now I'm just going to base coat them with this brown. I just want to cover up this white paper, but also I want them to look old. Of course, you could always paint them whatever color that you prefer. I wanted to try to do some vintage colors, kind of like this robin egg. I mixed up some paint and I tried to make it like that vintage looking green. I'm not being super neat. I gave the tables a watered down brown paint wash to make them look old. And I did have to make a brown table, of course. This table reminds me so much of a table that my mom had, and she would have fancy tea parties with my daughter, and they had so much fun. She had the little table in her bedroom. I think this little table would look really cute if it had a tea set sitting on top of it. And talking about tea sets, Tiny Craft Life made the most gorgeous paper quill tea set. You'll have to go check her video out. The link is in the description. And here are all of the complete little side tables. You can see the variation between the blue one and the pink one of having the feet on and leaving the feet off. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I hope you give these little tables a try. And I'll see you next time.